don't know what to do. I've had such a hard time where I was working, and I've put up with so much stuff there, and there's reasons why I stayed and put up with it for so long, but it became quite clear that someone that works there with me didn't want me there, and I'm not entirely sure why she didn't want me there. I never did anything to her. I generally helped her a lot with her workload, even though at times she didn't have much workload, and she'd basically sit there the majority of the day eating crisps and chocolate and getting me to answer every single phone call when I was busy, knowing that I couldn't answer 70% of the questions and would have to put whoever it was through to either her, the person that she sits next to, or the manager. So I was always going out my way, and it became apparent quite early on that there was some kind of problem, and it also became apparent she was desperate for money, and she would do anything for money, and she potentially saw me as a threat because it would mean that I would potentially be given some work that they may have given her, and she wouldn't be able to do as much overtime as she likes to con them into giving her, because they don't realise that her and the other person that sits with her basically spend 80% of the day doing nothing, and because they've got like reception desk where it's all built up in front of them, the managers can't see what they're doing, and they're in a different room to management. So when the management go in, they normally stand in front of this desk to talk to them, so they can't see what they're doing, which is typically nothing. And because I was in and out of that office and going in and talking to them and stuff, or I'd go and stand at the side of them, I could basically see they weren't doing anything. And normally on the screen every time I went in was the same thing, so they weren't doing any extra work. Like in the meantime, from if I was like in the like an hour early, and when I went back in nothing had changed. So I worked out early on they weren't really doing any work, except for if they needed to do the rotors or change the rotors, but it would normally take them an hour to do the rotors and maybe half an hour to do any changes, and that would be it. So she told me like week 2 or something that most of their days are sat doing nothing, you've just got to look busy. But because I sit in management, I can't look busy because I have a normal desk. Well, it was one of those big fancy desks and like a big leather chair and stuff. So my manager could constantly see what I was doing. So I couldn't just sit there and do nothing. But I couldn't think of anything worse than sitting there and doing nothing anyway. So if I ran out of work, I would either go and ask either my manager or them two if they had anything they wanted me to do for them. But because they were doing so little, if they did give me some work, they definitely wouldn't have any work. But I didn't want to sit there and do nothing. And then over time, as my role became bigger, I found more and more things for myself to do, and to improve what I was doing, I would improve all the documents or create new documents and things like that. So I was constantly working, but they knew that I knew that they didn't have that much work. But I didn't once tell my manager that they were just taking advantage and sitting there all day. And there was a couple of reasons why. One of them is the sister of the owner. So basically she can get away with anything. She can turn up late every day and nothing's ever said. And the other one, she's convinced them that she's some kind of amazing superhuman with all these office skills and experience, and that like she said she's done like management work, but when you read her CV, she's been made redundant a lot of times. And I've been to where she used to work a few times quite recently, and when I went in one day I had my work coat on, and they went, oh, you work at such and such a place, does such and such work there? And I went, yeah. And they're like, well, how's she coping? And I'm like, well, if she gets more than one thing to do or things go wrong, she flaps around the office and she like gets stressed out. They went, yeah, that's why she lost the job as a manager, because she couldn't cope with the work, and she was also getting other people to do the work for her, and she got found out, and she made out she could do this, that and the other, and she couldn't. I said, well, that's basically the situation now. So our manager and the owner thinks she can do loads of things, but she didn't have a clue, and they'd ask her things and then she'd either Google it or come and ask me, but they never asked me about like anything really, and I know a lot more about business than all of them put together because I've been around it for such a long time, and it's part of my job helping people improve their businesses and income and like staff and everything like that. I've always done that, and I've always improved business income and shown people how to run businesses. So she's got them thinking this, that and the other, and she's got a company car for free, which she doesn't declare on a tax return. She gets staff bonuses, which she doesn't declare. She does 180 hours a month, but only puts 90 through when they do the wages, so she doesn't have to pay tax. And I couldn't go and tell them that them two working, there's not even a full-time job for one of them, let alone two. But the owner's sister doesn't want to work, so that's why she's got the other one there, because she does the majority of the work. So I couldn't tell them about that. But then there was one day I was in the office, or she was in the office, and I came in, and we was having a chat, and I said to her, I really want to take Monday off. Do you think I'll be allowed to take Monday off? And she went, you need to give 10 days notice. I said, but I'm a manager. That's for the carers, because I worked for a care agency. I can tell everyone now I don't work there. And I said, I'm not a carer. It doesn't matter if I give a day's notice. I should be allowed it off, because my role isn't needed every day. I'm not a carer. I don't need to go and care for people. So she was like, no, it's 10 days. I went, it's not fair, because I know people, even carers, that have come in the day before and you've given the day off. And she kept saying, it's 10 days, you're not going to get it off. And I think it was like 6 days before, and I thought, well, I don't understand why I can't have it off. And it was bank holiday Monday, but there, you're not allowed any bank holidays off, and I don't know why, and I never agreed to it because I never had a contract there. So I grabbed a holiday form and went in the other room, and I was really upset. I was actually crying because they were stressing me out so much that I was like upset all the time, and they were affecting my mood. So I went in the other room and I was like really upset, filling this form out, and she come in and she's like, well, what's wrong? I said, this is all getting on top of me being here. There's constant rule changes all the time. They tell you one thing and then they change their mind like 10 minutes later, and they're coming out with all these rules when I'm a manager. I shouldn't have to abide by the rules that the carers have. And I said, I need Monday off because all this is getting on top of me. And she's like, well, it's 10 working days, but they should let you have it off. So she went and sat down, and then I filled in the form and I put it on my manager's desk, and she come in and she went, it's bank holiday on Monday, we work bank holidays. And I was like, but I need it off. She's like, well, you can't have it off because we work bank holidays. I said, but I'm not a carer. She went, well, it's too short notice, you can't have it off. So I went, oh, fine, okay. So I was sat there and I was working, and then Caroline, as she's called, and I can name her now because I don't work there anymore, she come in the room when the owner was there, and she went, do you want to tell Debbie, that's my former manager, what you did this morning? And I went, what do you mean? She went, you come in the office and you started shouting. I went, I didn't shout in the office. She went, yes, you did. So Debbie started shouting at me, saying it's unacceptable shouting in the office. I went, I didn't shout in this office. I said, I came in and said I want a day off on Monday, and Caroline said I couldn't have it off. And I said, I can't understand why I can't have it off, because you don't really need me on Monday. And I said, I really need the day off. And then Debbie started going absolutely crazy at me, having a go at me. So I started crying because I was already upset because I knew I needed a day off and they were getting on top of me. So she kept having a go at me, and I said, Debbie, I have the right to have the day off. There's people come in and ask for the day off the day before. She went, well, you're not having it off. And I was like, I didn't even shout. And Caroline went, yes, you did shout. You got upset and you started shouting. I said, Debbie was upstairs, she would have heard me, and Debbie went, I wouldn't have heard you, it's got thick walls. And I went, it's not the walls, it's floorboards, you would hear me. I said, when you're upstairs and you're talking above me, I hear you, so I'm pretty sure if I started shouting, you'd hear me. And she was like, no, I wouldn't. And then she just started being really nasty. So I finished my work, and then I went home, and it was what day was it? It was, I can't remember what day it was. I think it was like a Monday or something. And no, it was a Wednesday, because I don't work Thursdays. So then on the Thursday, I get a text message saying you can have Monday off. And I'm like really confused, because she was adamant I couldn't have the day off. So, oh no, this isn't when she had a go at me. I'm getting confused now. She had a go at me another time. So she didn't have a go at me that time, because she didn't tell her I shouted that time, because I hadn't anyway. Or did she? I can't even remember. No, it weren't that time that she shouted at me. So anyway, I got told I could have the Monday off. And I didn't reply to the message. I just went into work Friday, and they went, why didn't you reply yesterday? I said, well, I didn't think I needed to reply. You was telling me I could have Monday off. They went, oh, you should reply. So I had the Monday off, and then I can't remember if it was that week or the week after. I went into work one morning, and Caroline and the other one was there. And I went to my desk, and on my desk was this stupid piece of paper, and I think it was called something like, I can't even remember what it was called. I think I have one somewhere, but it was basically, they wanted me to write down every single thing I did, what time I started it, what time I finished it, how long I spent on it, and if it was complete. And I'm like, I think it was something called like a worker's work log. So I'm looking at it thinking, what's all this about? I've worked here, 6 weeks now, and all of a sudden they're giving me this. So I went into the other room, and I said, what's this all about? I'm not filling this in, it's a load of rubbish. Like, why are they demanding that I write every single thing down that I do? And the other one went, oh, well, we didn't know anything about this. We just came into work yesterday, and they were on our desks, and we didn't know what to think, and we've copied it, and we've put it on our computer so we don't have to write it out. And she went, and I used to do it a couple of years ago. I used to write things in a book. So she got this book out. Conveniently, this book had suddenly appeared from somewhere where it wasn't the time before when I was in the office. And she'd wrote for about a week what she'd done that day and nothing else. So I went, oh, fine, whatever. So I went and sat down, and on the top of it, I put, walked into work and found this stupid piece of paper where you want me to write everything down, and then I crossed it out. So the first 3 lines I'd absolutely like rubbed out in black pen. It was just this big black box, and it looked like I'd obviously wrote something and didn't want them to read it. So I think my manager finally came in, and the owner came in, and that's the day that Caroline walked in and told them that I'd shouted in the office, and that's when Debbie went mental at me. And I said, Debbie, you were upstairs with your partner, you would have heard me. And that's when she was saying, oh, no, you wouldn't. And then Caroline went, and this isn't the first time she shouted. I went, Caroline, I've never once shouted in this office. I don't know why you're lying. And she went, you are. You come in here and you shouted and you were crying. And I'm like, yeah, I cried, but I didn't start shouting in the office. So Debbie went crazy at me. And I think it was a Friday. So I finished work that day, and I was really upset because Debbie had gone over the top with me, and it was the owner of the business that calmed her down, because she just kept going. Even though she could see I was in tears, she just kept going and going at me. So when it came to Monday, when I had to come into work, I was dreading coming into work, because I thought there's going to be an atmosphere and it's going to be horrible. So I sat down at my computer and I tried to get on the main system, and it said access denied. So I went and asked Caroline, and she obviously knew. And she went, oh, I don't know, maybe they've had some maintenance done to the computer and you'll just have to wait till they come in. I said, well, how can I do my job when I can't get on it? She went, can you get on your server? I went, yeah, but the stuff that I need's on the other server. She went, oh, I'll email it to you. So the manager came in, and I went, Debbie, I can't get on the main server. And she went, oh, that's a bit strange. Maybe there's some maintenance work done. So I'm like, there's never any maintenance work ever done, and normally he does it while like you ring him up normally and he does it while you're on the phone. So I'm like, all right, I can't do some work. So every time I tried to get on the main server for weeks, I couldn't get on, and they always had an excuse like, oh, we can't get hold of him, he's really busy, or he's gone on holiday, or there's maintenance being done, or he must have accidentally done it. So I was struggling to find work because I do my work, but then I help them with their work, because even though they don't really need help with the work because they've got nothing to do and they just pretend they work all day, they would give me some of their work, but I couldn't get on the server. So this went on, and then I went on sick leave for a month, and I came back and I still couldn't get on the server, and he said, oh, I'll get you put back on the server. I don't understand why he's not done it. So every time Caroline gave me something new to do, I still couldn't get on the server. So eventually I stopped trying because I got sick of the excuses and just stayed on my own and basically didn't do any other work, what meant I had to go on the main server. I could get on mine, and I created a lot of documents for myself and for my job. So basically my job became mainly my stuff, or stuff that I could do without having to access the main server. Then one morning I went into work and Caroline was like, well, the day before she'd been a bit of a bitch with me, and I went in the day after, and there was no one else in because I always beat Shabana, the other girl, and I said, what was going on yesterday, why are you in a mood? She went, well, I'm not really happy you're here because you're doing all this work and you're making me look bad. I said, how am I making you look bad? She's like, well, they're giving you stuff they might have given me. I said, but you've got like a full-time job. I only work part-time. I need enough work to do my hours. And she went, well, I'm not really happy. She said, I want you to leave. And I said, well, who's going to do my job? She went, well, I can't do it because I know nothing about finance and the legal side of things that you take care of. I said, well, if I leave, who is actually going to do my job? She said, well, they'll have to get someone else, but I don't really want anyone else working in the office because it means, you know, they're starting to realise you can do more stuff than me. I said, but they still go on about how amazing you are. I don't know what the problem is. She went, well, I got you locked out the main server because I told them something after you left that day when I told them you'd been shouting in the office. I said, well, I don't even know why you lied and said I shouted in the office. She said, well, I don't want you here, and I was trying to get rid of you, but they don't want you to leave because they need you. And I said, but you shouldn't take that out on me because they want me there. I said, you've got a full-time job. It's not going to infringe on your hours because I'm only working part-time here. She went, well, I don't want you here because you're showing that you've got better skills than me. I said, but it shouldn't matter. We've got two different jobs. And then she told me that she'd told them, and this is why they locked me out the server, that I want to join the police and that I'm spying on them for the police and I'm taking screenshots of things and sending them to the police. And I went, you don't even sit next to me, so why would you say you've seen me taking screenshots? She said, because I don't want you in. I thought if I told them that, they'd definitely get rid of you. And she said, all they've done is lock you out the main server so you can't look at what we're doing because obviously there's things on there that you could get him in trouble for. And I said, but I'm not here spying, I'm here actually doing a job. I said, I don't think, oh, they're doing all this stuff. I said, I know what you're doing. I said, it's nothing to do with me. I'm not here. And I said, and the police wouldn't put me in that position to come in and spy on you. I'm not, what they called when people tell the police on people. An informant. I'm not an informant. She went, well, I tried to make them think you was an informant. And I've told them you're joining the police next year. That was last year when she told them. I said, even if I was joining the police, I don't know why they would lock me out the system because I'm just here doing a job. I'm not here to report on them. I said, even if I worked for the police, I don't think it would be my job to spy on people at my other job. And she went, well, I told them and they still wouldn't get rid of you. She said, but that's the real reason why you're not allowed on the server because there's stuff on there that would get him in trouble. I said, I don't even care. I said, I've got enough work now of my own where I don't need to be on the server. She said, well, you know, I've tried to get rid of you a couple of times and all they do is have a go at you. And I said, yeah, and I don't want them shouting at me because it's not really fair on me that they're shouting at me and having a go at me and treating me like crap because it's affecting me mentally. She said, well, if it's affecting you mentally, you should leave. I said, well, my doctor keeps telling me to leave, and I said, I don't want to let people down, and I'm not being pushed out of my job by you and other people. She said, well, they want you here and I don't like it. I said, well, you know, I go out of my way with you. I'm constantly coming in here and asking you if you need me to do anything. I'm constantly making you bruise. I'm doing all sorts of stuff with you. Just give me a break. And you know, it just carried on, and like I was constantly going out my way with her. I'd go in the morning, I'd make her a drink, I'd ask her if there's anything she needed doing, I'd get her whatever she wanted, and then she's made me answer every single phone call, and I still did it even though I didn't want to do it. And then one day I made 30 phone calls for her because she was trying to recruit, and people had like applied for jobs via Indeed, and she got me to ring every single one of them. And I did it for her, even though I hate like making phone calls and stuff. I still did it for her. And at Christmas, like, I made her that big massive food gift basket, and you know, she was one of the main reasons I was down all the time, because she was just like putting me under pressure, and she was like constantly going to my manager and saying stuff to me. And then at one point, me and my manager was getting on like a house on fire. It was always laughing and joking at things. And then all of a sudden you'd see Caroline get up from the desk and stand in the doorway and just stare at us because we'd be laughing at something, and she'd just appear, and I was like, what's she looking at? Like, it was really spooky, because all of a sudden we'd be laughing, me and Debbie, and all of a sudden Caroline would be there for no reason. Then she'd pretend like she'd seen like a cobweb or something, and I'm like, there's no cobwebs in here, it's pretty spotless. So that was happening, and then it became obvious that she didn't like the fact that me and Debbie were getting on, and that Debbie wasn't really taking any notice of her. But I know it's not really my problem. Like, I'm there to do a job, and if I get on with my manager, then it's a bonus. But it took a long time because Caroline was constantly saying things, and I was going out my way to be extra nice, and Debbie could see what I was doing. So Caroline couldn't really say too much behind my back, because Debbie was seeing me like going out my way with her and doing all sorts of stuff for her. So, but Caroline was still making digs at me and saying stuff, and then there was a problem because when I first started to work there, I told her that I used to work in a pub, and she asked, well, not as my full-time job, I worked in the pub because I had no confidence. I had really bad anxiety, and I was depressed, and I wanted to get rid of my anxiety and get confidence, and it was the best and worst thing I've ever done, because it changed my life in two different ways. One, it ruined my life, and it's because it's where I met my ex, and also the manager were one of the owners, well, not the owners, the landlady made my life a living hell. But also I gained a lot of confidence, and I got rid of a lot of my anxiety. I'm still anxious, still have anxiety, I have my bad days and my good days. At the moment I'm having a lot of bad days with it, but I'm not here to talk about that. But I went from having absolutely no confidence to, I wouldn't say I was as confident as the average person, but I had more confidence than I had in a long time. But it took about 6 months of working there, and like being scared and stressed out and anxious all the time, and struggling to get to that point. But when I started working where I've just been working, she asked me what pub I worked at, and it was very close to where she lives. And I told her, and it turns out her husband's cousin is the landlord, and she knows my former boss, well, the landlady and landlord. And I had to tell her about what had gone on, and how the female had been with me, and how she used to scream down the phone at me and like basically push me around, and I used to go out my way and do absolutely all sorts to her, for her, so she wouldn't be like that with me. So I revealed that to her, and then there was one day I went in the office, and I'd just seen my ex, and he'd had a go at me, and I went in and I was like really quite shaken, and she asked me what was wrong, and I said something about my ex and how some of what had gone on with him, and then over time she'd asked me more and more questions, and I revealed things about him. So I think it was either end of November or beginning of December, Caroline was like in a bit of a mood with me, and I don't even know why, because sometimes she was fine with me and sometimes she would just snap at me for absolutely no reason. And I think it was to do with some member of staff, and I'd said something and she didn't like what I'd said, because it basically told them that they had more power over Caroline. But it's a very controlling job there. They control people and blackmail them. So Caroline was annoyed at me, and she threatened to tell my ex where I work. And I found that really difficult because I've gone out of my way to never tell anyone where I work, and like only a few people know. The police know where I work, and my dad knows where I work, and my doctor, and I think 2 other people who don't have anything to do with my ex or the person who Caroline's related to by marriage, who I used to work for in the pub. So I've been very careful about who knows where I work, and obviously I'm safe because the police know, because they're not going to just turn up. So I've been very selective about who I told it to. So Caroline threatened to tell my ex where I work, knowing that I'm petrified of him, and I don't want him to know anything about me, because I said to her I don't want him to know anything about me ever again, because he knows too much. He knows my routines, and I try and change my routines, but my routines are not that changeable. But because of what's gone on, like, it still controls my life, because he still hurts me and he still does stuff, but it's not as often, and it's something I guess I've gotten used to. And I said to someone, like, I'm used to it and I live with it. And they said to me, you don't have to live with it, you don't have to get used to it. And I said, after what happened and how he got away with it, and now it was all my fault that he got away with it because I was saying and doing everything that he basically told me to do, I said I do have to live with it, because he's just going to say, you know, he didn't do it, or it's consensual, or he weren't there, or whatever it is. I said it's pointless. I said I'm going to have to put up with it. And he told me, you know, he's never going to leave me alone, and I betrayed him, and it's, you know, it's what is going to happen forever. And when he said it's going to happen forever, I thought, oh, he'll get bored. But, you know, it's been going on for nearly 2 years now, so it's just something I'm used to, and, you know, it's what I put up with. It could be worse, and it has been worse, so I'm lucky it's not as often. But I don't want him to know where I work. I don't want him to know anything about me other than what he knows, because I can't change what he knows about me. I can't change that he knows where I live, and I can't change a lot of things. But I felt a bit more in control of my life when he didn't know where I worked, and he didn't know I had this other job. And I liked that he didn't know, because the first time in a very long time there was something about me and my routine that he didn't know about, and I felt good about that, because everything else he knows about, and I liked that no one else knew where I worked. And it was, you know, for me, it was for me to go to this place, and it was for me to work hard, and it was for me to get better again, because I'd lost a lot of confidence, and to get back into working with people and getting into a routine. And it was all about things for me. So when she threatened to tell him, because I told her who he is, stupidly, and a lot of people say to me I'm too open and honest with people in person, that if they ask me something I tell them too much. And I said, but I can't help it. I said, if I feel comfortable with people, I will tell them things. And a lot of people, including my doctor, said you need to stop being so open with people, because they'll either use it against you or they'll take advantage of you. And I said, but I can't help it if I feel comfortable with someone, and or they ask me questions about what happened to me, because I want people to learn from my mistakes and not cover for people. And I still cover for people now, and I don't know why. And someone said to me, I think it was either last Monday or the Monday before, that I always cover for the people that hurt me the most. And they asked me why, and I said I don't know why. I said it's probably because I'm so used to it, but also I don't like saying people have done this and that and the other, because it's hard to admit it. But also, if I say it out loud, then it's really happened. And I know it's happened, but if I say to someone this, that and the other has happened, it makes it more real, and then I have to deal with it. Whereas when stuff happens, I kind of, if it doesn't upset me, I mean, it does normally upset me, but there's a point where I can just shut it off. And if I have to talk about it, that's when it affects me the most, because I'm very good at putting things, like, to the back of my mind. And again, someone said to me one day, this will all come, like, to the front of your mind, and you will probably have some kind of breakdown because you've held so much in. And I said, but I don't want to deal with it. And they said, well, that's the problem. And maybe it is the problem, I don't know. So when she said she was going to tell him where I work, I remember I was just stood there. And you know when you don't want to cry, but you can't help it, and you can just feel these tears just going down your face. And I could feel them going down my face. And I said, please don't do that. She said, I will do it. And I was like, I don't understand why you do it. I said, and I don't understand why you're being nasty to me, because I do all this stuff for you and you put on an act with people. She said, well, you have to put on an act with people. She said, you probably put an act on with people. I said, yeah, I come in here and I pretend to get on with you. And I said, the reality is you make me feel like shit. And she said, well, if I make you feel that way, leave. I said, no, you're not bullying me out of the job. And she said, well, I'm going to tell him. She said, if I see him, I'm going to tell him. She said, and I'm going to tell that female whose name begins with J, who I used to work for. She said, I'll tell her. She said, and I know for a fact she'll ring Debbie and badmouth you. I said, Debbie won't take any notice. She just won't be happy that it happened. And I said, I'll tell her how she found out I worked here. And Caroline went, I'll tell her I didn't tell her. I said, well, she knows no other way, because me and that person don't know any of the same people, and I don't tell anyone where I work. I said, you know, I've told the police, I've told my doctor, 2 other people, and my dad. I said, that's all I've ever told, that I work here. I said, no one else knows I work here, because I don't go around shouting it from the rooftop. I said, you know, I've been wearing the work coat, but I've been wearing it under another coat. I said, no one sees that I work here. I said, no one has a clue. And she said, well, I'm going to tell him. So I've lived in fear of him finding out, because as soon as he finds out, he'll be loitering and he'll enjoy telling me that he knows where I work. So I've been living in fear that she is going to tell him that I work there. And a couple of times she's like, I might have seen such and such, I'm not naming him on here, I might have told him. And I said, do you actually know him? And she went, I know of him and I've seen him about. I will tell him that you work here if you don't leave. So I've had that added pressure, and it's just gotten worse. Like, she is the main reason I've left. Probably 70% of the reason I quit was her. She also said to me that if I ever shop her or anyone else for tax evasion, I better be careful, because the owner knows some very dangerous people and they'll cut me up. That were her words, cut me up. And I know that they're associated with someone who stabbed 2 people at a party years ago, and people were too scared to come forward and name them, so this person got away with it. And this person that stabbed these 2 people were at a party that my manager had upstairs in her house, and about 2 days after the party she came down and she was going on about him, and she was telling us how he got her biggest knife out of the kitchen and was being an idiot with him with the knife, and she had to get it off him and put it away. So I thought, I'm glad I were at the party, because everyone else at work got invited to this party but me. And I thought, oh, maybe I didn't get invited because I'd only been there, I think, 5 or 6 weeks. But then I found out someone who'd been working there 2 weeks got invited. So, but I'm glad I weren't there, because I would have rung the police and reported that there was that man there with a knife, and like she joked that he was just like messing around and playing around with this knife, and I was absolutely horrified knowing that he'd stabbed people in the past. And my dad was one of the people that was at the party where he had stabbed people, because another well-known criminal who's on licence, who has a restaurant just like 20-second walk from where I work, he was at the party and he was going around punching people. And because he's notoriously well known and everyone's scared of him, no one would say what he'd done at the party either, but he'd gone around just hitting people and there were baseball bats and all sorts. And I was glad I were at that party. I remember my dad came home and he was covered in blood, not only his own blood because he got punched in the face, but other people's blood. And I'm like, it was like some kind of crazy massacre. And it was actually a christening, believe it or not. So when she's threatening me, saying that, like, I'll get cut up if they ever get done for tax evasion, I was scared to death, and I quit my job 2 days later. That is why I quit, because she's threatening to tell my ex where I work. She was threatening to tell my former boss, who made my life a living hell, who has actually threatened to harm me. And then she's threatening me. And then she's also saying, we know where you live and we know where your dad's office is. So I had to quit my job because of that. And I'm too scared to tell the police, because what are the police going to do? Because she didn't have a criminal record. She's just two-faced and a very nasty person. She constantly badmouths people, and she says really nasty things, and then she's super nice to the face. And you know, even when they weren't being, or she weren't being nasty, or the manager wasn't being funny with me, I was being dragged down by the negativity in that office. It was just like, people come in and then they'd leave and they'd be like, oh, he's a such and such, or this is like, they were saying so much nasty stuff about people. And before I went to work there, like, they used to go through a lot of staff, and I thought people couldn't handle the job, because going into people's houses and caring for them is like, I wouldn't say it would be an easy job, because you've got to like change them and clean them and like do lots of things. And I thought maybe all these people are like leaving the job because they can't handle it. But since working there, seeing like the staff turnover, it's not because they can't handle it, it's because of how they're treated by them. And like, the owners are like just constantly money grabbing all the time. It's all about money with them and how much money they can make. And like, the staff are getting paid minimum wage, whereas if they work somewhere else they'd be getting paid a lot more, and the working conditions are poor. And like, if they're like going on an half an hour call, they only stay 10 minutes. And these people are like looking forward for these carers to come in and look after them, and like, they live on their own, and they're like, oh, I get half an hour with them, and then the carers are going in for 10 minutes. So the owners were trying to like see if they could like pay them less, because they're only going in for 10 minutes. And then they would give them like 3 calls, and they'd have to do 3 calls in an hour, and they'd all be half an hour long calls, and they're only doing like 30 minutes like worth of calls, and they're getting paid for an hour and a half. But the main reason I left was because of the threats that Caroline made towards me about telling my ex, because she didn't want me working there. And not only that, like, if like HMRC suddenly start investigating them, that they're automatically going to blame me, and she said that I'm going to get cut up. So eventually I was just like, I can't cope anymore. And my doctor was telling me for months to leave, and I wasn't even telling my doctor half the things that were going on. And like, all week I've been scared. And like, on my final day I said to my manager, you need to be careful when you get a new accountant, because you can't tell a lot of accountants if you're doing anything dodgy, because they'll report you. She went, is that a threat? I went, no, it's not a threat. I'm just giving you a little bit of advice that the bigger firms will only go by the book. They won't advise you on how to tax avoid, because that's what they're doing. And she's like, if that's that's a threat. I said, it's not a threat. I said, I'm giving you advice. I said, you just need to be careful if you're going to do that sort of thing, because big firms won't put up with it, because they will get investigated. And she went, well, if HMRC turn up, I know it's you. And then she just gave me this look, and then she went like that across her throat. And I just looked away and looked back at my computer. And I can actually prove what she said, because I actually recorded the conversation from when I went in. I pressed record on my phone, because I gave him my resignation and I never told her I was doing it. And she phoned my dad instead of phoning me, and she said, did you know what she was doing? And he said, yeah, I knew, because she told me when she decided. I'd only decided the day before. She never asked me why I was leaving. And on the day, she eventually asked me where I was going to work, and I said I'm not going anywhere, which is actually the truth. She never asked me if anything was wrong, because to be honest, she doesn't care. Even when I told her, she was like saying nasty things about other staff members. She just got like a bit annoyed with me and changed the subject. And Caroline sat there going, I didn't say that. And she was looking down, and when people look down and they won't look people in the eyes, it's because they're lying. So I left because of Caroline, and now I'm scared she's still going to tell my ex where I worked. And I know it doesn't matter now that I don't work there, but I don't want him to know anything about me. he already knows too much. Like, he gets off on knowing things about me. When he finds out things about me, he likes it, and I don't like him knowing anything else than he already knows. So, you know, if I see him, next time I see him and he says, oh, you work there, I'll know she's told him, or she's told who I worked for, like her cousin's partner. I'll know. I hate what was going on, and I hate that she didn't want me there, but I didn't do her job. But it did become apparent that she couldn't cope with it. If like two things needed doing, she'd run around panicking, and I'd be like, calm down, get some fresh air, do what's important. She's like, oh, I don't know. I said, just think about what would be the most important thing to do. So I know she isn't a manager, and she also knows nothing about finance, and when you're a manager you do have a budget, and she just doesn't have a clue. So I just don't know what to do. And I also have another problem. I accidentally left some codeine there on Monday, and they won't give it me back, and I need it because I'm constantly taking codeine. I've left 10. I was lucky because sometimes when you get them it's a strip of 28, but I'm lucky that the chemist that I've been getting them from, which is now closed permanently, they're giving them out in strips of 14. So I had a strip of 14 out, and I took 2 the night before and 2 that morning, so there's 10 left, and they won't give me my codeine back. And codeine's a controlled drug. It's actually a Class B drug, believe it or not. I was shocked when I got told. So they've got my medication, and they won't give it me back because I refused to go in and work on Monday, because they were trying to blackmail me to go in on Monday. And I told them I couldn't, and I explained why, and I said I've given my notice and all that, but also I said I've got appointments and I'm only available for 3 hours, but I'm really unwell and I've got several sets of accounts to do before the 31st. And I said that's my priority, and I said I can give you 3 hours but I don't really have time, and I said I might be able to finish it the day after. And she's like, no, I want you to come in Monday. And I said I can't, and I said I've already explained I've got these appointments and meetings and the long-term arrangements, I can't miss them. And she weren't happy, so she won't give me my medication, and she also won't give me my wage either. So I don't know what to do. Like, someone said I'm going to have to tell the police, but I don't really want to get the police involved because then I'm going to have to tell them about the threats that Caroline's made to me, and I don't want all that hassle again. I don't want the police in my life. I don't want... And I feel like the police going there would make it worse because Caroline's already threatened me, and I know he's associated with dangerous people there. I know. They know where I live as well, which scares me. Like, I want my address taken off, like, the records and stuff. I don't want them to have my address. Like, I'm worried now, but I don't know what else I'm meant to do because it's my medication. If I run out quicker than I should do, my doctor's going to think I'm taking too many tablets again. I know I can show the messages on my phone off my manager where she tells me she's got the medication and stuff, but you know, I've paid for that medication. I need to get one of those NHS cards because I spend so much on medication. It's a miracle that I've got any money because, like, I think on an average month I pick up around 10 prescriptions, and it's nearly £9 a go. So I really need to buy an NHS card. I had one before and I lost it, and they wouldn't replace it because they said, how do we know you've lost it? Because there's no barcode or anything on it, so it's not like they can cancel one of them. So I think they need to improve the cards so then you can get replacements. So, like, a couple of people have told me I'm going to have to involve the police, especially because they've got my medication. But I don't want to do that. Because I feel like if I do that, then they'll get revenge by something happening to me. But I can't live in fear of everyone. I live in fear of my ex all the time. Like, I barely leave the house, and especially at night now, I just won't leave the house unless I really have to. Then I run to my car, and I don't want him to find out that I work there. And when I worked there and she was putting me under this pressure, it was to make me leave, and I kept saying, I'm not going to give in, I'm not going to give in. But I had to give in because, like, the day before, it was either 2 days or the day before I quit, I think it was 2 days before I handed the letter in, she like said again, I'm going to go and tell him tonight. And I was like, he would turn up, he'd get off on knowing, he'd enjoy telling me that he knows, so I had to leave, so now I don't know what to do. I've got my medication there, I've got some, but obviously I'm 10 down on what I should be. So I actually had some not too long ago, that's why I'm quite chilled out, because I had my large dose of it. And I had some Oromorph as well, which chills me out, otherwise I'd be really stressed out right now. So if you're wondering why I'm super chilled out, it's because of the amount of pain relief I've got in my system. But I just want my medication back, I want the money they owe me, and I don't want to worry about them getting caught for tax evasion, because they're going to blame me for it. Like, there's lots of people that would probably report them, because they're constantly like treating staff badly, and everyone knows what's going on there because they're all in on it. I just shouldn't have to live scared again of someone else. I work so hard though, and they just took the piss out of me all the time, and there's still stuff I've not even talked about and may never talk about. I don't even know if I want to talk about it all. I've got a sore throat again. I'm losing my voice again. This is brilliant. So I just don't even know what to do anymore. They've made me feel so down. There was one point, like, I even spoke to my doctor. They were making me feel quite suicidal at one point, and that's why my doctor wants to see me all the time, because at least I tell her how I'm feeling, and we talk about a lot of things, and that's like, she really helps me a lot. If I didn't have her to like talk to, I probably would have done something a long time ago. So she helps me keep me not sane, but she just helps me, and I do listen to her advice, and I did leave eventually, but it was because I was going to stay till April. I didn't tell my doctor that. I was going to stay till April, and then that was it. Start the new tax year and leave, but I just couldn't. After the threat the other day, I just couldn't stay there, and she's insinuating that my dad's going to get hurt as well, and I'm very protective of my dad, and I know I'll come in and say stuff about him, and he does treat me quite badly, but at the end of the day, he's my dad. I will always defend him, and I said that to an inspector. I said, he's my dad. I said, you'd defend your parents, and I think he said something like it depends on what they've done, but at the end of the day, you would defend your parents, and I do defend him, and yeah, he does treat me badly, but he's my dad, and it's all I've ever known, what I know, and what I put up with, and it is what it is at the moment. But I just want my medication back, and I'm old, and they're just going to like make lies up about me now, because they do that with everyone. When someone leaves, they come out with loads of crap about them, and I just sit there and I'm thinking, this is just such a negative place to work, that even the people that have worked it long term for them and like gone out the way for them, they badmouth them when they leave, and they always say, oh, they'll be back in 2 to 3 weeks, and 95% of them never come back. And like, they don't care for the service users, and they just take advantage, and they don't declare the private work that they do, and they do a lot of private work, and there's lots of tax evasion going on, and I couldn't stay there because I don't want to be implicated by association anyway, because, you know, I knew what was going on, and I have told people what's going on, because I'm not getting caught up in that. I have nothing to do with that. I don't have access to the bank accounts or anything like that. The owner has the manager dealing with that, because he would definitely drop her in it if he ever got caught. That's what he does. They blame everyone else for their own mistakes all the time, and they just treat everyone like crap. But I'm just scared, because I feel like I'm going to have to tell the police they won't give me my medication back. I don't know if I'm going to tell them about the threats made against me. Like, I don't want this big deal. I just want my medication back, and I don't want to be hurt by anyone. I don't want my ex to find out that I work there. I don't want anyone to know those things about me. I was very careful about who I told. Like, my dad knew, the police know, my doctor knows, and 2 other people who I'm not naming, but the people that would never reveal it to other people. And I was careful. I'm careful about a lot of things. I don't reveal a lot of places that I go to, even on here. I go to Tesco, yeah, I go to M&S, but I don't say a lot of the places where I go, and I don't tell times or anything like that, because I've stupidly done that in the past and things have happened. So I try and be careful, but when I'm really down and stuff, I do accidentally reveal where I've been or where I'm going and stuff, and I try not to. But it's just really difficult, and when, you know, someone you're working with is making you feel so crap and lying about you all the time and trying to get you to lose your job. And I didn't lose my job, I quit my job. I just couldn't put up with them anymore. It was too much. And the atmospheres, and you'd go in and there'd be an atmosphere and it'd be like, oh God, I've got to sit here for 4 hours, and it'd be a horrible atmosphere. And I'd be drained, and I'd go and see my doctor, be like, I can't cope with this anymore. And she's like, what have they done now? And I'd be like, she's like, you need to go, you need to leave. They're destroying you. You're working hard to get through every single day, and like, you're slowly improving over time. And then you go there and something happens, and you're going back like 10 steps every like 12 you make. So she keeps telling me, she was like, the other day, she's like, oh, you've done it, you finally left. I'm like, I couldn't do it anymore. I said, they were making me feel like I did a year ago. And I said, I know it's going to get to the point where I start acting out again. And she went, at least you recognised that and you stopped it. I said, I did. I said, the only reason I recognise it is because I'm a lot more calmer because of the medication that I'm on. And it's only codeine, I'm not on like anything else. But codeine does like chill me out a lot more. Especially like now I've had a big dose, it makes me think more about things and think clearer and relaxes me more. And I think that's one of the reasons it's the pain relief she chose for me, because she knows it has this effect on me. I'm more chilled out about things. So I'm just scared because I know I'm going to have to tell the police that they won't give me my medication back. I'm pretty sure it's illegal to keep people's medication. I think if I kept someone's medication, I'm pretty sure I'd get in trouble for it. But I just want my medication back. Because obviously, my doctor's only just started to trust me with medication. It's took her a year to trust me after my stupid mistake a year ago, which I was pushed into by someone who rung me 4 times in a row, called Melissa. And I'll still never reveal the contents or what happened in those phone calls, because that's between me and her, and she told me she never revealed what she said, and I won't reveal it either. It doesn't matter anymore. It's a year ago. What happened then on that night, I'm not going to particularly repeat now. I've talked about some of what happened afterwards when she got me in the hospital and she had me crying, but I won't even reveal everything that was said then. But I have talked about a couple of things because it does affect me. So I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know if they still continue to not let me on my medication, I'm going to have to tell the police. Because even though I don't want the police back in my life. I don't want to have to deal with the police. You know, they've probably got more important things to deal with. But I do need my medication. I really do need it. I need my diary that I've left there, which they're refusing to give me. And I need my wage, which again, I've earned and they're refusing to give me. So I just thought I'd come on here and do a video, and it weren't meant to be this long. I'm losing my voice more and more as I talk. But I'm just having a hard time, and it is making me very down, and it's what I've been putting up with for months. And I still don't even get why she doesn't want me there. Yeah, maybe I'm making her look bad because I can do things, but they still went to her for things that she didn't have a clue about anyway, and she'd either blag it or ask me or Google it. So she doesn't have a clue, and like several people said, if she's as good as she makes out, she wouldn't be working there for £8.50 an hour, because you wouldn't. I didn't do that job for money. I did it to try and get a bit more confidence and be around people and have a routine, but it's made me feel worse. So I would go out my way with them all the time, and I got treated really badly, and everyone noticed it, and it was just crap, and I'd have to go there every day, and I'd dread it. I'd dread Sunday night. Sunday night I'd stay up till 4 or 5 in the morning even though I'd be exhausted because I just didn't want to go. Like every night I had to get up the next day, I'd avoid going to bed, and I'd lie there till about 3:30 in the morning, sometimes 4, because I just did not want to go there. And I don't have to go there, and they tried to blackmail me to go on Monday, and they harassed me all week about it, and I didn't back down. I did offer against my better nature, and that's because my dad was putting me under pressure. He kept telling me to go, and I got really upset with him on, I think it was Thursday, and I was like, you need to stop telling me what to do. I said, you're the reason I've kept going since September. Even the doctors like telling me not to go because it's affecting my mental health. And I said, you know, like more than anyone what's been going on, and you've been telling me to go. And he went, well, I thought you enjoyed the extra money. I said, so the extra money is more important than my mental health? He's like, well, I thought it was. I went, so you think it's acceptable for them to keep pushing me, knowing that I'm going to start doing what I did a year ago, because eventually I start to not realise what I'm doing and I start doing stupid things. He went, well, it's extra money though. And I'm like, so you want me to go around and do what I was doing and have the police back in my life concerned about me for extra money? And I got really upset with him because he still said, oh, I still should go, and he said that I should back down and cancel all my appointments on Monday and go and work there because that's what they want. And I'm like, these are long-standing appointments and arrangements. I said, I know one of them's just me going to M&S, but I do go to my doctor's on Mondays and I go somewhere else on a Monday, and they're long-standing things. I'm not changing them. And he's like, well, you told them you'd do other hours. I said, yeah, but they're insisting I do Monday for the day. And he went, well, why don't you just back down? It's a bit of extra money. So he wants me to go in there where Caroline's threatening me with 2 different lots of people, and the manager is giving me shit and shouting at me, and there's going to be an atmosphere, and it's probably going to make me feel suicidal. He thinks that's okay for me to go and do that because it's extra money. And I said, I can't believe you've been forcing me and telling me since September to go in that situation, knowing how it's affecting me, knowing that I avoid going to bed, knowing that I avoid going to sleep when I do go to bed, knowing that I dread walking into the office every day and that I struggle to sit there for 4 hours working because of what they're saying and doing around me. I said, you're meant to be my dad, but you're putting me in that situation, and you're happy for me to go there because you're saying I get extra money and that I like it. And I'm like, yeah, I might like the extra money, but I don't like what they're doing to my mental health. I said, even the doctor, without me saying anything, knows when there's something wrong. And you're meant to be my dad. She's my doctor, and she is more concerned about my mental health than you. I said, you're causing me a lot of these problems. You say stuff behind my back. You make me sound like different to what I am. Yet you don't know next to anything about me. You don't know anything at all. Yet you seem to tell people a lot of things about me that aren't true. It's like, well, don't do it on purpose. I said, well, I do think you're doing it on purpose, because when people tell me you're saying this, that and the other, you're describing someone else, because you're definitely not describing me, because people are saying things and it's not even true. I said, I can't understand why you do this to your own daughter. He went, well, I don't mean to. And I'm like, but you're saying stuff about me, so you must be meaning to. He's like, oh, I don't mean to say all this stuff. I went, well, stop talking about me. I said, I'm barely going to tell you anything from now, and I barely tell him anything. He asked me all sorts of questions, and I refused to tell him, because I've seen what he's like. He tells people half a story, or he paints me in a bad light, and I don't understand why he would do it, because of the amount of stuff I do for him. Even when I'm, like, the day I get out of hospital and I'm severely unwell, he has me rushing around after him. He has me going to the shop. He has me cleaning up after him. He has me going picking stuff up for him. He's seen me collapse several times whilst I'm rushing round. And the other weekend, he's like, oh, the house needs cleaning. He had me cleaning and tidying for 4 days, and I collapsed numerous times, and he'd go, oh, just sit down for a bit and have some a sugary drink, you'll be okay. And he's happy for me to do that, and all I do is defend him because he's my dad. But, you know, he's telling me to go to work somewhere knowing what they're doing to me. And he's like, but it's money. And I'm like, some money's more important. And eventually he went, oh no, it must not be important, obviously, because you're getting upset now. And I'm like, but they're affecting my mental health. They've made me feel suicidal at times, and you're saying that's okay. So me and him are like I said to him, if you just carry on, I'm just going to go and live in my car, because You're putting me in situations as well, knowing how it's affecting me. And he knows that I'll do everything that he wants me to do. But this time I've took a stand and he's annoyed at me because I've walked out on a job and I've walked out on a third of my income. But why would I keep going somewhere knowing that eventually I'm going to start doing stupid things again? Because it will push me to the point where I'm not thinking and I will say and do stupid things, and then I'll rush off and people think I've gone to do something to myself, then they'll come looking for me, aka the police, and I don't want that. And two people said to me, at least you've realised that's what's going to happen this time if you don't stop working now. And I said, yeah. And I said, I'm too scared to allow it to happen again. But my dad, oh, you're giving up money. So, yet again, money is more important than my mental health. So, he's annoyed at me for giving up money. And he's like, he'll badmouth me to everyone now. But, whatever. Anyway, I've ranted on too long and I've had enough, and I'm feeling down because I'm talking about my dad and how he's pushing me into like going to work because it's money, even though he knows it's affecting me and making me ill and that my doctor's highly concerned. So that just shows how much my dad cares. Yet I go out my way for him all the time. Anyway, I'm pissed off now, so I'm going.